This is Tuesday, June 21st. There are 29 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2016. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
God, I love LiveJournal, and my LiveJournal loves me. Current mood is hyperactive.
Okay, good evening. I am your host, James Riley, the orange one sometimes. And joining me on the podcast tonight, Carrie Dixon.
Hey, everybody. Sorry.
Yeah, no nicknames today. And also joining us, our special guest, Eric Goldman of IGN.
Hello, guys. Thanks so much for having me back.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, we always appreciate you coming on, Eric.
Yeah, always a lot of fun. I love Comic-Con. I love talking about Comic-Con, and I think I have that in common with you, so it's no problem.
Yes. We do like a little bit enjoy talking about Comic-Con.
Little bit, tiny bit.
So we're going to get to news at the end of the show, but let's just get right into the business of TV at Comic-Con. So what is it about the business of TV at Comic-Con, Eric? Or does Carrie have an actual question?
Carrie, or should I go?
No, you can go.
Well, I mean, obviously you guys well know at this point just that TV is huge at Comic-Con at this point. I mean, I remember when it was just a handful of shows, and now it seems like every show. That's of course an overstatement, but we get over 100 shows usually, and from animated stuff, and of course there's so many comic book shows that seem right in line to some that are always a little weird of a fit. But even as we're hearing about this year, there's some movie studios we're hearing are sitting out Comic-Con. You don't hear that on the TV side. I mean, there's some people who just don't go, but the ones who go every year, I think, are probably going to go again. And nothing we're hearing makes me believe we're going to suddenly have only 20 shows to cover. I think it's going to be 100 again. So I think we're just raring to go and to get all those. We got one big release, 20th Century Fox yesterday. And even though they didn't give the dates, but we're ready. We're going to get our email inboxes are going to be filling up pretty soon, I think.
I mean, they pretty much have to. We're not that far away now. We're less than 2 weeks away. Well, we're 2 weeks from Thursday from the schedule starting to come out. So
yeah,
it gets a little crazy from here on out.
Yeah, it's time, and I'm sure I actually have heard a couple of things about people telling me like, oh, our releases are coming pretty soon, maybe next week. Although 20th Century Fox, yeah, they kind of got to jump on everyone, and I wouldn't be shocked if we get another before the end of this week. But we'll find out. We'll find out soon.
Let's hope. Well, let's talk a little bit about what we do know is coming, Fox. So I assume you thought the same thing I did, which is that a couple things that weren't on there, like Lucifer and Gotham, aren't on there because probably WB is going to announce them. Yeah.
Again, always. Comic-Con is very interesting on the behind-the-scenes level and just stuff that people don't think about as viewers, but it's the studios who are almost always the ones that are in charge of sort of putting it all together and what they're bringing. And so when you get a press release saying, people at a glance might think, oh, this is what Fox is bringing, but that's not the Fox network. It's 20th Century Fox, the TV studio. So while most of the stuff on that list was stuff that airs on the Fox network, some stuff like Salem is not. It's still produced by 20th Century Fox. So I'd be shocked if Gotham isn't going. It's just, it's Warner Brothers who's going to be the ones responsible. Same with Lucifer.
Yes, and to make matters even more complicated, like FX, even though they're kind of part of that family, they announce their own stuff. So
yeah, it's all weird with like the corporate and who owns who and who produces what. And sometimes FX actually, I'm glad you brought that up because FX will sometimes get like things sort of double listed on press releases, right?
Yeah.
Like, FX will usually send their own press release, but sometimes some of the stuff that they produce gets listed. Some of the stuff that other studios produce is on their press release as well.
Yeah. But that's why we always tell people if you don't see your favorite show like immediately listed, like it may not necessarily mean that it's not coming.
Yeah, they're still. This is just the beginning, folks, of the announcement. So don't worry.
Yes. But I mentioned this before we started, but let's talk a little bit about it. Netflix. They've come to WonderCon though. It's been several years now. I think it was like 2011.
I think so.
It was a while ago.
I moderated that panel, Hemlock Grove. So yes.
You moderated like the one and only Netflix Comic-Con National Panel.
That's right.
So, well, they've never come to Comic-Con. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, right? It's curious at this point. It seems very strange at this point because Netflix just grows and grows. They're kind of taking over. They've got these huge shows, some of which are definitely genre, and of course we got to talk about the Marvel stuff. So it's interesting that they just have decided not to go to San Diego ever. They've gone to New York Comic-Con now 2 years in a row with the Marvel stuff specifically. And, you know, some of it's timing, right? Like last year, Jessica Jones was premiering shortly after New York Comic-Con in November, and New York Comic-Con's in October. So, and they really play things close to the vest. I think that maybe is another reason why they sit it out, because they don't release trailers usually till like a month before the show comes on.
Yeah.
And they're so specific. So I think because just release date-wise, it's never worked for them to be there based on what's coming and when's coming. I am curious this year, though. Luke Cage premieres September 30th, I think. So too early for New York Comic-Con. So if they were going to go, this seems like the year because, you know, they are debuting a Marvel Comics TV series, and this would be a great place to talk about that. So if they were going to go, it seems like this is the year. If they don't go this year, I think they're never going because at this point, you know, they can't wait for New York Comic-Con for Luke Cage. So, yeah.
I have vague hope because a couple months ago, Kristen Ritter, in an interview, said, like, they were going to Comic-Con.
Right. I saw that too.
Yeah. So I've always wondered, like, is she confused? Did she mean New York Comic-Con?
Right.
But I've got hope that maybe this is finally the year that they show up. So.
And I'm going to get into more, like, the minutia of the studio here, but because Marvel TV is, you know, going every year. Like, they go with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They don't have other shows this year, but when they had Agent Carter, they were going. So it's been even actually extra interesting that they decided not to bring Daredevil and Jessica Jones in the past. So again, it's like it's easy enough to think like, oh, you could piggyback on that. You know, even though Netflix definitely is, unlike some other networks, seems to be very closely involved in these decisions. But again, Marvel TV is probably going to be there with S.H.I.E.L.D. again. And so you would think, hey, Netflix could partner with Marvel, who they're already partnered with, and do a Luke Cage panel. I really, really hope they do. But again, if Netflix plays by their own, I'm forgetting what instrument I should use, drum? Beat of their own drum. There we go. I can figure out my metaphors. So, you know, if they have a master plan that doesn't involve Comic-Con, I guess that's how it is. But, yeah, hopefully we can take Kristen Ritter's comments and the timing of Luke Cage and put that all together and get Netflix to make a magical appearance for the first time.
Let's just say that they are coming. Where do you think they would even put that? Is that Hall H? Is that Ballroom 20?
I would guess Ballroom 20. TV has definitely made its way into Hall H more and more. But I don't even think S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't been in Ballroom 20. I mean, sorry, in Hall H. Have they? I think they've stuck to Ballroom 20. So I feel like the shows that have done Hall H have all been like established, long-running genre shows. So even with the Marvel name behind it, if Luke Cage were to come, I feel like Netflix, because he's like a more obscure character, and of course Jessica Jones now has introduced him to a mainstream audience, but I still think like they might not want to start in Hall H, right?
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that they would maybe Ballroom 20 is more likely.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Let's talk a little bit about HBO. So, I mean, it's barely even a question that Game of Thrones is going. But is that the only thing they're going to bring this year? Do you think they bring Westworld? Do you think they don't?
I hope so. I am so excited for Westworld. I just actually did a video that's going up tomorrow on IGN about why I'm excited about Westworld with Terry Schwartz. And I would think so, right? I mean, it makes a lot of sense because what show is more ready for Comic-Con that HBO is debuting than Westworld? And, you know, it has to overcome a little bit of bad buzz with they had the delay in production and stuff. I'm super psyched about it. I saw an amazing sizzle reel, not the teaser that debuted on Sunday night with Game of Thrones, but a sizzle reel they only showed at the ATX TV Festival in Austin 2 weeks ago. It looks so cool. I love Jonathan Nolan, J.J. Abrams, so I think that it makes a lot of sense because this is the audience, and I think they could blow out Westworld, and they have such an amazing cast that they could even get a few of their amazing cast. So I would guess they would bring it, right? It just feels like this is they haven't had a show since Game of Thrones debuting that's more on brand than Westworld. And Jonathan Nolan's been there for Person of Interest for years. Warner Brothers is involved in Westworld. They bring everything. Plus again, the person. At the Person of Interest panel last year, they debuted a little clip from Westworld. So there's a lot of reasons there, I would think, that would lead me to think this is a possibility.
Well, let's hope so. Let's talk, though, about the other big cable subscriber network, Showtime. They have pretty much been, slowly pulling out of the convention. Last year, they were basically only there in, the lanyards, and I think they still sponsored the Masquerade, but they didn't actually hold, a panel.
Yeah, and sadly, Penny Dreadful is over now. We know this. So there's no Penny Dreadful to promote.
But
what about what would make me very happy?
Cherry pie, coffee.
Yes.
Yes.
As someone who is currently rewatching the original Twin Peaks for maybe the 7th or 8th time, that would be so awesome. And I tweeted a few weeks ago, something about, oh my gosh, I hope Showtime is going to bring Twin Peaks to Comic-Con. And someone was like, you really think that David Lynch would do a Comic-Con panel? I was like, don't you want David Lynch to do a Comic-Con panel?
It would be amazing.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So, again, I'm sure that's probably a question, right? David Lynch does as David Lynch wants, and I don't see any sort of traditional Comic-Con panel that he would be doing their traditional Comic-Con panel thing. That doesn't mean they couldn't do a panel A without him, or B, have him involved in some funny, weird way. He sends some weird video or something very David Lynchy. I would think, if nothing else, the lanyards and some sort of promotion. But, man, I want that panel to happen just to see what bizarre things occur. And I want David Lynch to be on it to see what David Lynch does on a Comic-Con panel.
I mean, I think if it happens, that's basically already one Comic-Con.
Right.
And then let him bring somewhere around half of the cast members.
Yeah, only 125.
Right.
That would just be the entire panel. It's just introducing people.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be fun. Let's talk a little bit about network stuff then.
Yeah.
What lovely, boring panels are we going to sit through for CBS this year?
CBS. I think, so on the new show front, I could definitely see them bringing Training Day. Again, on the surface, CBS cop show doesn't sound Comic-Con-y. But based on a recognizable, beloved movie from, film geeks and everyone, has Katrina Law, and they kind of, some things they like to do, it's like, when Hawaii Five-0 went to the first season to Comic-Con, and they really pushed the fact that it was Daniel Day Kim from Lost and Grace Park from Battlestar. So they got Katrina Law, they got Bill Paxton, so they got people with geek cred, and the big ace in the hole here, it's Warner Brothers.
Yep.
And Warner Brothers TV, again, think about the studio. They love them some Comic-Con. They bring more shows than anyone every year. And so Training Days of the new CBS shows, I think that is the most likely that would make an appearance.
I think we're going to get MacGyver. I'm not super excited about that, but I feel that's unfortunately very Comic-Con.
No, I think you're right. And the fact that James Wan is directing the pilot, that extra solidifies it for me. Thank you for reminding me of that. I think MacGyver's probably going to, because I think they're going to push that hard. Again, the nostalgia. You got Lucas Till from X-Men. James Wan directing, who is a very Comic-Con friendly director. I think MacGyver, which, by the way, they're about to reshoot the pilot. They pretty much scrapped the pilot, recasting everyone except Lucas Till and one other actor. Who knows? That trailer really doesn't tell you anything because that's not the show we're going to see.
All right.
So maybe we'll get a better trailer and a better haircut, and we'll go from there.
Maybe. For me, one of the biggest questions is NBC and powerless. Because even though I feel like that's a total Comic-Con show, like, I can't remember the last time NBC actually brought, like, a 30-minute comedy. I mean, they kind of brought Community, but really that was Sony. So.
Yeah. Again, though, the Warner Brothers factor. Never forget the Warner Brothers factor. The two reasons I think that's going for sure, I would bet on it, are Warner Brothers and the DC Comics adaptation. You know, It is. You're absolutely right. As a half-hour NBC comedy, Community was an outlier going. Although there was an Office writers panel once.
Okay.
Remember that? B.J. Novak, I believe, was there. He was obviously a writer and an actor. Maybe Rainn Wilson moderated, but I might be making that up. But so the Office once went. I think the Warner Brothers and the DC Comics of it all, and Alan Tudyk and Danny Pudi.
Yeah, it's got
Comic-Con
like
veterans.
a huge Comic-Con friendly cast. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one that I think that outdoes the NBC half-hour comedy of it and gets it there.
I think so too. What else do you see like NBC or ABC bringing this year? Do you think? I keep wondering about Conviction. Like, it's not Comic-Con friendly, but it's got Haley Atwell. Like, is that enough?
Right. If Conviction goes, yeah, it's a stretch. Having seen the pilot, it's a big stretch. Because honestly, Conviction is, ABC, as you can tell by the trailer, it's like, ABC has a lot of Shonda Rhimes shows, and then they have a lot of shows that are influenced by the success of Shonda Rhimes shows. Like Quantico is not a Shonda Rhimes show, but obviously is like in the spirit of Shonda Rhimes, and that's what I feel about Conviction.
Okay.
And they would never bring Grey's Anatomy or Scandal.
No, God no.
So it's a stretch, but yeah, if they bring it, it's because of Haley Atwell. But I almost feel like it's a trap for them, because if you bring her, then it becomes just about, can Agent Carter come back?
Yeah.
And I don't think they want to deal with that. It's one thing for Haley Atwell to do these panels by herself that she does, where she's going to be asked about it. It's another where she's supposed to be promoting her brand new show on the same network that aired and canceled Agent Carter. So I think that's why they don't bring it. Is ultimately feeling like it could overwhelm everything.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I don't feel like, though, there's anything new on ABC that really, like, totally makes sense.
No, ABC, I'm trying to think of their new stuff. I don't think so. Designated Survivor. That is a maybe, because on the surface, I don't know, it's high concept enough. So for people who don't know, Designated Survivor is about the idea in real life that they always take a low-level, like someone, I shouldn't say low-level, in real life the idea that they take someone from government is always being protected at all times in case, what if something horrible happens. So the setup of Designated Survivor is Kiefer Sutherland plays a low-level, like, congressman or a low-level politician who is the person on the night of the State of the Union who's been sequestered, and then a horrible attack happens that wipes out everyone, the president, the vice president, everyone in Washington, and this guy is suddenly president because he's the guy there. So a big high-concept show, and then it's got Kiefer Sutherland as the lead, Maggie Q is in it, Cal Penn is in it, and it's very off-brand for ABC amongst the sort of Shonda Rhimes-ish shows. It has a darker edge to it. It feels more cinematic. And obviously that cast is very all Comic-Con veterans. So that's the show I think is most likely of the of the ABC newcomers is Designated Survivor.
All right, I can see that. Over on the CW, I feel like pretty much everything that they have could go, because again, it's 90% WB shows, and they're all at least a little bit genre.
Yeah, they're all going. I mean, all the returning shows, right? Like, there's no way the Berlanti comic book shows are going. Supernatural is going. The 100 is going. iZombie is going. These are like, no-brainer. No iZombie joke meant by no-brainer. And then Riverdale, I mean, it on one hand, you're like, oh, it's kind of a soapy teen drama. It's also a comic book show from
Archie.
Greg Berlanti.
Yeah,
Archie.
exactly.
Yeah. So that's got to go. And then I'm trying to think the other new CW shows. Those are more of a stretch. Oh, Frequency, I bet, goes, because that's Warner Brothers. And, you've got Peyton List. You got another sort of genre veteran. I don't know if they bring No Tomorrow, which is No Tomorrow is much more in the vein of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Jane the Virgin, even though it has a potential crazy idea at the end because it's a romantic comedy with a funny twist where she meets the man of her dreams. He's charming. He's wonderful. He's British. And he is absolutely sure the world is ending in like 10 months or something crazy for a TV show timeline. And so the idea is that like he might be right, but as much as that's like a funny high concept idea, I think that one sits out Comic-Con. But yeah, all the Warner Brothers produced stuff I think is probably coming back.
I think so too. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is Mr. Robot. I love Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
And I get it, but I don't. But they brought the actors last year to San Diego. They did a Nerd HQ panel. They did a panel/interview over at the Nerdist thing, but they didn't hold an official panel.
Right. I think that's going to change this year.
I hope so.
I mean, the big difference is like Mr. Robot became Mr. Robot, right, in the year since. And they went to New York Comic-Con, which was even weird because they had nothing to talk about. They wrapped the season. The actors knew nothing, and the creator was being super tight-lipped. It was basically a victory lap appearance. So this year, because it'll be right when they're coming back, I'm like, yeah, I think you're going to get a full panel this year. I think they're going to go big this year because it is such a breakout show. It's like a redefining show for USA. It's the cover of Entertainment Weekly. Yeah, I think they're going to get a hero's welcome Comic-Con this year.
Basically, more almost as important as whether they're going to show up. Are they bringing the Ferris wheel?
Will the Wonder Wheel appear? You know,
that has been my question since that showed up at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
I'm like, are we getting that?
Because the Wonder Wheel, used to always do autographs because it was in the Warriors and people had nostalgia for it. But now it's made a big comeback from Mr. Robot. It's new, it's relevant. So yeah, Wonder Wheel should definitely just roll down right in front of the convention center.
Well, you saw at South by Southwest, right? They actually had like.
No, I didn't actually see.
They had a whole offsite. Like it was set up like Coney Island. They had a Ferris wheel and like buildings set up like the F Society. So.
No,
that is what I want.
That would be amazing. And I think I should mention on camera to anyone watching and listening that it was very funny before we started filming when you guys were telling me you couldn't see me, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on? You can't see me." And then I realized I have a funny piece of swag they sent. It sent a Mr. Robot protector for your camera because Elliot knows you got to block that camera when you're not using it. And it was the first time I'd actually. Doing one of these since I put that on there, and I slid the Mr. Robot logo. I'm looking at it right now on there. Thanks, USA.
That's awesome. Let me check our Twitter to see if we have...
Arctic Roadrunner asked if Naughty Dog or Riverdale TV was coming, and I think you answered Riverdale. I
mean, we don't know for sure, but again, Berlanti, comic book, CW... It has all the elements that make for a Warner Brothers produced all the elements that make for a Comic-Con panel. So I'd be shocked if it didn't go.
What about Midnight Texas on NBC?
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so NBC has a couple things you got to wonder about: Midnight Texas and Emerald City, which it seems like that's been promoted for 20 years.
I know the buses in 2014.
Yeah,
Emerald City.
But then they were last year or this year.
This year.
Yeah, they were the WonderCon lanyard this year, and they were like the big outside of WonderCon, right? Yeah. So Midnight Texas, I would think that probably would go, right? Because it's the author of the True Blood books, and it's a weird genre show that's kind of quirky. And NBC themselves, we should say, again, it's that weird, blind spots NBC, but Warner Brothers won't bring it. But NBC they bring Grimm every year. And they brought a few things, and I feel like, Midnight Texas feels like a show that they'd want to bring because it's a quirky, potential sort of cult show, and you want to reach out to that genre audience. And True Blood was such a perennial for a long, long time at Comic-Con, so I think maybe you try to be like, hey, you haven't had True Blood in a while, but you're going to get a new show from the same author's inspiration.
What about Brain Dead on CBS? Any chance we get that?
I think there's a chance because in the past they would bring Under the Dome when Under the Dome was kind of middle of the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mary Elizabeth Winstead is kind of like a Comic-Con beloved, thanks to Scott Pilgrim. Even though that might bring up the fact that Scott Pilgrim sadly bombed, but it's such an awesome movie that everyone loves. They love her. And Brain Dead, I think again it's such a weird show, especially for CBS.
Yes.
I think that they might want to kind of drum up more like, hey, there's this weird show about alien bugs, and it stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and it's quirky and funny, and it's on a network you might not watch, Comic-Con attendees. So especially because they would bring Under the Dome, and they can almost slot it in its place.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that, but I think now that you mention it, I think there's a good chance they'll bring Brain Dead.
I think so too. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about, or any other shows you want to mention?
No, I mean, you mentioned the big ones as far as like the what ifs. I think Westworld is the one I'm most. We didn't mention when you were asking about HBO and what they could bring is we should remember that Outcast is Cinemax, which is HBO. It's their sister company, and that's probably going to go again, I'd guess. Again, Robert Kirkman, who's undoubtedly going to be there.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And then the other thing we didn't talk about is Adult Swim. The fact that they usually bring several shows. Sometimes they brought, I should say, a ton of shows. But even when they don't, they usually bring a good handful. Robot Chicken seems to go to all the big cons. And I feel like Rick and Morty now has become like a kind of go-to. And I wonder, will they bring Mike Tyson again? And a few other things that have kind of floated in and out.
Yeah. Cartoon Network and Adult Swim always, I always feel like they're kind of like WB. Like, they basically just bring everything in the kitchen sink,
Right, yeah, they both bring a ton of stuff. And then we should also, I guess we talked about Netflix, but it's like, okay, what about the other streaming services? Amazon brought Man in the High Castle last year.
And they're doing a big offsite this year, so they'll definitely be at Comic-Con. We just don't know specifically what they're doing, but yeah.
Yeah, so I would expect that is very, very likely. Of course, as I say this, I'm going to get myself in trouble and Hulu, but it's like Hulu and Amazon, there are shows I'm totally blanking on that I know are coming up that are like, they feel like very appropriate shows for Comic-Con. It's just a question what they bring. But I think Amazon, again, like you said, with the offsite, it's pretty much a lock.
They'll be there. They'll be there.
And I could see them bringing at least one other project, given all the things they have that they're working on, and then I'd be curious if Hulu as well, starts to dip their toe in there. I don't think Hulu hasn't come, have they?
No, they have. They've brought the Awesomes the last 2 years, but I think
That's right.
it got canceled. I think
It did.
Yeah, so that won't be there this year, but
Yeah.
but they have been. So
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
out of the question that they wouldn't bring something else.
Yeah, I think something might end up there.
Were you gonna say something, James?
Since Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead have basically already been announced, we didn't actually talk about AMC, which is possibly bringing another show. Team Leafy asked on Twitter if we think Preacher will show up.
Oh, I'd say that's a guarantee.
Right? I mean, how could you not? Again, the comic book show of it all, and Dominic Cooper. Hopefully you get Seth Rogen there, as one of the EPs. Yeah, I'd be very surprised. Timing-wise, it'll be like right at the end of their season. I think Preacher's gonna almost certainly go.
Well, they did the premiere at WonderCon. Like, they're fully on board, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
Preacher was produced by Sony. And yeah, I think they'll be, so whether it's announced by Sony or AMC, I'm guessing Preacher will probably end up there.
I think so too.
Actually, had a question on Twitter from Haunt Justin 12 asked, which I think we know the answer to. Do you think American Horror Story is coming?
They're not.
Yeah, I think they announced that they're not, right?
Yeah, we confirmed. American Horror Story is for sure not, but FX hasn't released their full schedule yet, so there will be some stuff from FX there. We just don't know what yet.
Yeah, you gave a good segue though here. Legion. Is Legion gonna go? Yeah.
Yes.
That would seem to be very, very good choice. And here's the thing about Legion that would make it a really cool panel is Legion is the first, unholy union between Fox and Marvel behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And you look at the list of executive producers, and it's Jeff Loeb, Simon Kinberg, and Bryan Singer for the first time. So if you could get a panel with all those guys, and of course Noah Hawley, who's the showrunner who did Fargo, that would be a cool panel. And so I'm very hopeful they'd bring Legion now that it's officially picked up as a series. That would be. I'd be surprised if they didn't bring it. As I'm talking about it, it seems to me like Legion would be something they definitely would want to bring.
I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I have been saying for years, FX has so much stuff that even though it's not like strictly a Comic-Con kind of show, it would totally make sense. Like, I feel like they could bring the Americans in Still Pack Room. I feel like they could bring, oh my god, why am I blanking? Noah Hawley's other show. Fargo. They could bring Fargo.
Yeah.
So I feel like if he's already there for Legion, why not just have a Fargo panel? But I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Probably not, but hell, I mean, Ewan McGregor's starting the next season of Fargo, so that would be pretty cool if he were there. Americans did New York Comic Con once. I think that's pure the cycle of it, though, because there are shows that go to, like, Game of Thrones goes to San Diego Comic Con pretty much on the victory lap, as I said earlier. It's like they're not going to shoot for a while, but it's more like, let's remember the season that was. But I think if you're FX, like something like the Americans, where you're not going to start shooting for a few months, you're not going to start airing for many months, it just doesn't work timing-wise for them. They don't feel like to bring. Not that I wouldn't love it, and I think you're right. Like they could definitely fill a room there. And it was great when they went to New York Comic Con. It was a lot of fun. They even had those T-shirts. Do you remember? Did you see those T-shirts that they all had? They were like Comic-Con. They had like special like shirts. Awesome. I have to find a picture. I have a video of me interviewing the cast there, and they're all wearing those shirts. So that was great. And then, of course, Archer just got renewed for 3 more seasons today. So I would expect Archer. We can say Archer will be at Comic-Con 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019.
Yep, just go ahead and pencil that in.
Yeah, pencil Archer in.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, can we get a question on Twitter? Jennifer Sagers asks about Rebels. Is Star Wars Rebels coming, or is it too close to Celebration being the week before?
Jennifer. This is Jennifer, who I know of. Jennifer and Christine, wonderful sisters. Rebels. Right now, sadly, I'm thinking no. The Star Wars Celebration of it all. The fact that it is the week before. The fact that they're going to debut the first 2 episodes at Celebration. Makes it seem, and just timing-wise, I'm insane. I'm going to be doing both. But if you are Lucasfilm and you actually have to coordinate, travel of talent and all the things that go into a convention, it seems unlikely, which is too bad because, Rebels, I mean, hell, Rebels went to WonderCon, a couple years ago before they debuted and whatnot. But right now I'm pretty much assuming that Lucasfilm, aside from maybe a booth presence, that there probably will be no actual panel presence, as we assume on both film. I also go to TV and say, I'm guessing no Rebels.
That's an interesting question then, because the celebration's in Europe this year. Right. Do you think in Anaheim next year, the week before, for D23 is going to affect their decision in whether they do both, or are they just going to stick to D23 as well because they just don't want to deal with it?
Even though, the Europe of it all made it an even bigger obstacle, I'm guessing they sit out next year, and I think, next year they, just, even though we're talking about TV here, if you don't mind me dabbling in movies, it's just the fact that now that we know that Marvel's going this year, now that we know that James Gunn has said Guardians is going, and it kind of sounds like Doctor Strange is going, but I guess next year, with D23 the week before, they're not going to go at all. Again, on the panel side, booth side is a different story. More for we talked about this a lot in the office at IGN. It's like more we kind of assume like their idea is own the conversation the week before, right? At Comic-Con, there's so many big announcements that someone might have, oh my God, everyone's talking about this thing, and then 2 hours later they're talking about something else because now someone else's great panels come on. And I feel like their idea next year especially is we do D23 the weekend before, and that's where we do all the stuff, all the Marvel movie stuff, all the Star Wars movie stuff, all the Star Wars TV stuff. I still think maybe getting way ahead of myself. I can see like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. still goes to Comic-Con next year.
That was going to be the next thing that I said, because I totally agree with you. I think like their whole thing is that they want to like get in front of it. But I feel like the story coming out of D23 is never really about the TV side of things.
Right.
So I feel like coming out of Comic-Con, like that's where you really get your TV news. So I feel like they would still bring like the ABC TV shows and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one exception. But yeah, I could see if Rebels will be, I'm guessing, at D23 next year, and then probably not at Comic-Con. I'm guessing Comic-Con is not getting Rebels either this year or next. I mean, sorry, I was not getting Rebels. Yeah, this year or next.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Anything else, James?
I don't see any other questions. No, I haven't seen it. What about ones that we have on our thing here?
Oh, yes, Mike Nelson. Okay, so he actually told me the story the other week. One of our readers, Mike Nelson, he said, I spoke with Noah Hawley at a book signing. He is hopeful for a Legion panel. So I'm going to probably butcher your story here, Mike, but basically he went to a book signing with Noah a couple weeks ago, and he asked him if they were going to come, and Noah was basically like, I think so. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I always like those little, like we were just saying with Christian Ritter, people say stuff like that, and you're like, come on, you know? You've got to be doing something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I again, Legion seems like, why wouldn't you bring it? Like everything about it screams Comic-Con. It's just working out behind the scenes if Marvel or Fox are the main ones coordinating, and that's part of the fun of this doing a panel. You know, is all the people who are involved in it, and hopefully we'll be up there. So that's a big hope for me.
I hope so too. Well, anything else we wanted to touch on?
I can't think of anything, actually. That's what. Actually, I did want to comment about how you mentioned that there's usually at least 100 television shows coming to Comic-Con.
Yeah. I've done the count a couple times.
It's interesting because we tried going over it here, and we just kept coming up with networks and streaming and shows that we hadn't talked about yet. So there are a lot of. That's a lot. Basically, as everyone says, it's the golden age of TV, and it looks like that TVs will definitely be taking over for movies at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Still.
I mean, there are some shows we didn't mention as I'm thinking about it though, like new shows like Exorcist. You know, I bet that goes.
Well, it is. It got announced in.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Fox stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. The one that didn't get mentioned, the other old movie, Lethal Weapon.
Yes, but that's WB, isn't it?
Right, that's WB, and that's one of those ones again, like Training Day on the surface. It's a buddy cop show, but such a big name brand in the movie geeky realm, and Warner Brothers, which makes me think that there's a very good chance the Warner Brothers of it all. They never cease to impress me with how many shows they bring. So I feel like they're always looking to break their record.
I feel that way too. You know what? The one thing I was surprised though that wasn't on that Fox list, Making History.
Oh yeah.
I would have thought that would have been like the perfect kind of a show for Comic-Con, but.
Yeah, you're right, because Son of Zorn was on there, which is the other Lord and Miller new Fox comedy. So yeah, that is surprising actually that they're not going. But yeah, I guess they must have some reason or other that they're deciding to skip it out. And I'll also mention, by the way, if I can mention something that's like TV adjacent, TV involved, is WWE. Who never do their own panel, but there's always the Mattel toy panel that ends up bringing a bunch of WWE wrestlers. So it's IGN, we cover a lot of wrestling amongst our TV coverage. So I think that is another likely one. And then I guess Sherlock's another question mark because they are working. They're coming back with new ones. So I know they came last year, with one of the producers and one of the actors, not the two main guys, but I guess there's always hope, for.
Well, and I mean, presumably Benedict will be there for Doctor Strange, so.
Yeah. Wasn't his first Comic-Con panel ever for Penguins of Madagascar?
It was.
Yes. He's got to do a Sherlock panel.
Yeah, by the way. And it was actually decent.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, James.
Oh, and you know who else we didn't mention is Stars.
Yeah.
Who I know we know that Outlander's not going, but Ash vs. Evil Dead, I would guess would again go. I mean, no one is king of Comic-Con more than Bruce Campbell.
Right, and he's already said he's going back, so I would very much assume, yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess the question is, does Black Sails go officially? Because it's been a while. Last year, a couple of the actors were there doing signing stuff. So
and
I would
American Gods.
American Gods. That one's got to go. I mean, Brian Fuller again, very Comic-Con friendly.
Neil Gaiman, yeah.
Yeah, even Ricky Whittle coming off the 100, is a Comic-Con veteran at this point. So American Gods, I would expect would almost certainly go.
I would too. I think that's going to be the big thing that replaces Outlander for this year, from them. Yeah. So
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mike Nelson said we totally left Cartoon Network, which we did touch on a little bit. Nickelodeon, Freeform, etc. I'm hoping the new camp show goes, which I assume by that he means Dead of Summer. I think that's got a shot, even though Freeform hasn't technically been since I think like 2011. I think that show's got a shot.
Dead of Summer is also Kittis and Horowitz, the Once Upon a Time producers, which definitely increases the chances of it going. They'll already be there, we can assume, and so I would think that's a good chance.
Yeah, I think so too. And then from Nickelodeon, I mean, I would assume most of the usual suspects.
Turtles.
Turtles is for sure going. That's already been announced. I would assume SpongeBob is back. I think they're doing the Splat All That reunion panel.
Oh, wow.
So, that's what I know.
Do they bring Amanda Bynes or not?
That was my first question, but we shall see.
Yeah.
Junior Winslow said, what about Vikings? I would also assume that's going.
Yeah, Vikings is, definitely has like a slot at this point where they seem to go every year. And Vikings split their season, so they actually have more episodes this year. So I think that really increases your chance. I mean, again, I would be shocked at this point if Vikings didn't go based on their history, but that even makes it more likely they're going to go when they've got episodes airing much sooner than usual after Comic-Con.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we've touched on a wide range of things.
99 of those, yes.
I mean, like we said, there's well over 100 TV panels, so I don't think we're ever going to hit them all, but I think we hit on a lot of them.
Yeah, although nothing will beat when Showtime, they didn't do its own panel, but when they had Nurse Jackie as part of their anti-heroes panel, that still stands out to me as one of the odder fits at Comic-Con.
Yes. I feel like that was the last year, too, that Showtime went really big. Maybe they were like, maybe we need to, like, scale this back and bring things that make more sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. But come on, guys, bring Twin Peaks.
Please.
we all need it.
Yeah, please. That's the one. That might get me to wait in line for more than a few hours this year.
There you go. Oh, Sharknado 4, guys.
Oh, that is for sure coming.
Yeah, see? Don't forget Sharknado 4. And then actually we should probably say Sci-Fi, I'm guessing will bring a few things. Expanse, Magicians, a lot of the stuff that's been renewed, I would think is going to come.
Well, then they've got that big offsite this year, so I would actually think that they're going to bring quite a few people into town.
Yeah,
and they haven't renewed Winona, but one of the producers has already said that they're showing up with the cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't renewed Winona. They haven't renewed 12 Monkeys. They better renew 12 Monkeys. I love that show. So those, I guess, are question marks. But yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that Winona Earp sounds like they're going. So that's hopeful news for people hoping for renewal, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us again this year. We always appreciate having you come on.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
And since our lower thirds are, for the most part, not working, James is just the lucky one this week. Where can our viewers find more of your work?
So you can find my work at IGN.com, but more specifically, IGN.com/TV is where you'll find most of my content. And then on Twitter, I am the Eric Goldman, that's Eric with a C, the Eric Goldman on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, you guys should all go follow him, because he's awesome.
Thank you very much.
And we will let you go now, Eric, and we will stick around to do the news. Woo.
Okay, guys, thanks so much for having me, and look forward to San Diego.
Thanks, Eric.
Take care.
Okay, so right before we got on, a lot of things happened.
So much TV, that's amazing. It really has.
Huh? Go ahead.
It really has taken over the con.
It really has. I mean, which I have no complaints about. I make no secret of the fact that I'm way more of a TV person than a movie person. Couldn't care less about 90% of the movies. So that was fun for me. Hopefully it was fun for you. But right before we got on, a bunch of information about Conan got announced. We knew he was back at Spreckles Wednesday to Saturday. Looks like they are officially announcing tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Conan's show. He will officially unveil his new vinyl pops on his show. You can see the illustrations of them now on our website, which Conan is going to be Funko-ized into a Stormtrooper, a Ghostbuster, a Superman, and Suicide Squad Joker. So those will be handed out at the show. No word yet on how to get tickets, but I would assume that information is coming very soon. Also no word on bingo. Did I cover all that?
I think that's everything.
I think that's everything too. So I wrote that about 8 minutes before that podcast.
You might wonder why we were a couple minutes late. There you go.
There you go. I haven't even had a chance to tweet this, but we know a little bit of information now about the Star Trek screening. We know that it will be 8 p.m. on Wednesday night. Doors are going to open at 6 p.m. Link will be coming immediately after this. Still no word on how to get tickets to that. Still think it's going to be a bloodbath. Don't get your hopes up too high.
And actually, we saw just before also that people have started receiving their badges for entry into the.
Yes. Yes. And explain what you mean by that.
The folks who won a badge, I think, online or maybe possibly at the Star Trek event in Los Angeles have received their lanyard and badge to get into the premiere. Some of them. We've only seen a few. Yeah. Basically, go out. And more information.
Emails are also going out.
Yeah.
And they also said that there would be more information this week. So I would assume that we might potentially hear about how to get your hands on those CCI badges here within the next week. Fingers crossed.
Maybe.
Maybe not. Who the heck knows at this point? We had other news happen this week.
We did. The first one was actually the major news, which was James Gunn confirming that Guardians of the Galaxy will be at Comic-Con in his video he posted on Facebook. Basically, as the last day of filming, saying, yay, we're done. This is Chris Pratt's last day. We have a big announcement. We're going to Comic-Con. We'll see you all there. So that was big news.
The only cast members he officially confirmed was he confirmed himself and he confirmed Chris Pratt. We're both going. But I would assume pretty much the entire cast is going, just like last time, just like always. It's Marvel. They always pull out all the stops. Right. And because he officially confirmed, you could pretty much take it as gospel before, but you can even more take it as gospel. That joking around that Scott Derrickson did about Doctor Strange, that's going. It's not a question.
Right. If James Gunn says, hey, I'll be near there, so we'll be able to hook up and say hi or whatever on a tweet and reply to the director saying, oh, look, these banners are at Comic-Con. I guess this is a hint of what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
It's basically them saying, guess what? We're going to be at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Without actually saying it.
Yes. So the other big panel news is that Ben Affleck, in basically a paparazzi video, confirmed that he will be at San Diego Comic-Con. And I've seen a lot of outlets jump on that and say that that confirms that Justice League is going. And while I think that that's more than likely true, let's not forget that he's also in Suicide Squad.
Right.
So it could potentially be that it's just that. I don't think it is, but...
And the reason why people are picking that up is because the previous question was, are you done filming? And the answer was hell no. And then the very next question was, are you going to Comic-Con? And he answered with, yep, we'll be there. So that's why people are picking up that they're thinking that it's Justice League, because the two questions were one right after the other. At least I'm assuming that's why they're picking it up. Or people are just running with it and making things up.
One of the three. I am so exhausted, guys. This is going to be real fun into the podcast. Fox TV also announced a whole bunch of their panels. We actually didn't touch on this too much with Eric, but basically they are bringing a bunch of stuff. They're bringing Last Man on Earth. They're bringing 24 Legacy. They're bringing Prison Break, which, as several people tweeted me, that's still on TV. It's being resurrected. They are bringing Bob's Burgers, American Dad, Bones for the very last farewell panel. They're bringing The Exorcist. What?
With a lot of cast, right? Which they usually don't bring a lot of cast for the Bones panels.
Right. It's usually like a bare minimum, but they're actually bringing quite a few people for this. They're bringing both the leads, Emily Deschanel and David Boreanaz. They're bringing TJ Tyne, Michael Conlon, Tamara Taylor, and my screen just jumped. It did it again. So they're bringing several cast members. They're also bringing The Exorcist, which I think I'm going to have to sit through because it has one of the guys from Sense8 in it. They're bringing Family Guy, Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I think that one's interesting.
Rocky Horror?
Yeah. I don't, as far as I am aware, we have never brought like any of these live TV musical shows to Comic-Con.
No, we have not.
No, we have not. So I think that one's actually really interesting. Yeah.
Well, so the
It's
other
really, really interesting. Go ahead.
they're bringing a ton of stuff. So the other actual big news today was, hey, everybody, free Wi-Fi at Comic-Con around downtown.
Yeah.
There was a press conference this morning with the mayor of San Diego and Cox Cable, TV, Communications, whatever you want to call them, and David Glanzer of Comic-Con. And they basically announced that there's going to be at least 100 Wi-Fi hotspots all around downtown San Diego. And all you have to do is log in, and it's going to be free from July 8th through the 24th. So you'll be able to use it during the San Diego, the Major League Baseball All-Star game that is happening in San Diego, and during Comic-Con. So as you're wandering around downtown at the offsites, you will be able to use the Wi-Fi, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. But you'll be able to have some free Wi-Fi that is possible to be used.
That is pretty exciting, though. A lot of people seem super pumped about that. However, as Jason pointed out, there is one sad bit of news about that. It means that we're not going to get back those wonderful KFC Wi-Fi statues this year.
No, and that actually is sad because I never even saw them.
You never saw them? They were everywhere.
I never got out to go see them, and I'm very sad about that.
I mean, I know you loved Star Wars, but yeah, they were literally everywhere. It's okay to see like the sunlight every once in a while, James.
I saw the sidewalk and the tent and Hall 8.
So what you're saying? What you're saying is they should have just put one of those statues over by like the Hall H line.
Yes, that would have been very convenient for me.
It would have.
Right over there, right on the boardwalk. Come on, just do it.
There.
Just put one on the boardwalk. I mean, last year do it. Do it now. I'm not going to be over there this year, so I don't care where.
They have Wi-Fi this year, so we're not going to get KFC. That was the weirdest thing though last year. Okay, so anybody who does not know, they brought these Colonel Sanders statues that they dressed up as like a unicorn, a furry, a werewolf, an alien, a unicorn. There were more. It was like the weirdest thing.
7 or 8 of them or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Was there a chicken?
Was there chicken? I don't
You said
think
it
there was a
was
chicken.
No? That seems like one they should have done, maybe.
You're not wrong, but I don't think there was. I don't think they wanted him to like cosplay as their food. I think that might be a little weird.
It would have been.
Whereas the rest wasn't weird at all. Okay, so enough about KFC, even though, seriously, that was like my favorite thing that happened last year. Will Arnett is going to be hosting the Sci-Fi Presents Live from Comic-Con, which is awesome. I truly hope that they work in at least a couple Arrested Development jokes, or it's a total waste. They also confirmed that Lego Batman will be at the convention, so assume that that's going to be part of WB's Hall H presentation on presumably Saturday morning.
And Hasbro announced another exclusive finally, and it was the.
They announced a couple.
Yeah, they did, and I have lost it where I was going to go look for it.
I can talk about it. They announced the Micronauts set. Basically, today they announced 2 different exclusives that are basically like reviving some of their old toys. So they announced a Micronauts set, which has 3 different figures. If you want the names of the figures, you will have to go look at our site. My memory's not that good. They also announced a Visionaries Mighty Mug, which looks kind of cool. And then the other day, they announced a Transformers Fortress Maximus, right?
Yes.
Boom, from memory.
And I saw some people talking about it, that it is similar to a Takara edition that is coming out, but this one has the sword and a little bit of a different paint job. So it has some Comic-Con exclusive stuff.
Yeah,
It's $100 though.
it is.
Which is cheaper than the original Fortress Maximus, which I think if you want to find it is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 these days, maybe more.
Well, yeah. That's a lot. There should still be a ton more left to come from Hasbro. We haven't seen their Black Series stuff. We haven't seen their Marvel Legends figures. We haven't seen... I'm forgetting some stuff, but there's a ton more still to come from Hasbro. There's a ton more still to come from other exclusive companies. We haven't seen anything from Gentle Giant yet. We haven't seen any of the BBC merch stuff yet. Yeah, just a lot more still to come. I'm just going to skip around on this list because we have way too much. Funko exclusives have started to get announced. What's going to be really interesting this year is seeing, one, how big of a mess their line system is, and number 2, where these exclusives wind up. So every year, a lot of Funko's exclusives do wind up also being sold at Hot Topic and Barnes & Noble under a different sticker. So we've been trying really hard to watch their Periscope videos, and if we see ones that have the summer convention sticker on it, that all but guarantees that it will be available somewhere else.
Right.
Now, not all of these have that sticker on it, but there's some that I feel are going to be available elsewhere, i.e. that Doctor Strange one. What I am basically assuming is when you look at our post or on Funko's blog or wherever it is that you're reading about these, I think the ones that say blank pieces limited edition,
yes,
for sure Comic-Con exclusives, for sure limited editions. If they don't if they don't give like 500, 1,000 pieces, whatever, I would assume that it's going to be available somewhere else just with a different sticker. So.
Yes.
And it's
all clear as mud.
Yes. But you know what? It's totally possible, like, not to get in the Funko line and get several of these. I ordered, like, the Groot and Rocket one and the Unmasked Captain America one on my phone while sitting in line for Comic-Con last year. So you can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it. Just pay attention. last year's stuff got leaked, but even if not, basically Thursday morning on Barnes & Noble and Hot Topics websites, a lot of stuff is going to go live. I've also heard that GameStop is probably going to have a couple things this year. Don't know that for sure. Toddland revealed Wave 3 of their exclusives. They're doing All Bob's Burgers stuff this year. Their stuff looks awesome. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. We also showed off on-site badge pickup, which for the most part is for sure over at the Marriott. Basically, general attendees are going to be at the Marriott. Everybody else, so like press, professionals, somebody else I'm forgetting, they're all going to be Lobby D in the convention center. But everybody else is over at the Marriott. Badges started shipping. That's news.
Yeah, you got yours, right?
I got mine. Did you get yours?
I didn't have time to check the mail today, so it might be there.
Who knows?
But everyone started getting emails today. General attendees started getting emails today that badges are shipping. So start looking in your mailboxes in the next couple days.
Yep. I'm looking. Is there anything else?
Hotels wait list is over, so whatever is available is on the On Peak website, Comic-Con hotel website. You can just go check it out, see if there's any. If you still need a hotel. Go check it out. There's no downtown left, but there is shuttle routes left from what I understand.
Mike Nelson said Hasbro still hasn't announced a My Little Pony. That's what I'm forgetting. Yes, they always do a My Little Pony. So that'll be a big thing. Stephanie said, I only have a Sunday badge, but will there be waiting in line on Saturday for Hall H on Sunday? Is there enough time to get the badge and then return in line before they start allowing people to go in? So, Stephanie, I'm going to assume that you are an international attendee. As a reminder, if the person who purchased your badge is entered in a U.S. address when they purchased your badge will be shipped. Because that's not complicated enough. So it's not necessarily your address. It's not even necessarily your buyer's address. It's the address your buyer entered when purchasing. But I'm going to assume that that person was international. In that case, you will have to pick up your badge on site, and I'll let James handle the rest of that question.
There has been many instances where people waiting in line have had time to go get their badge before being let in for the panel. So I would say yes, but I would also make sure that you go as early as possible and even go before they say the badge pickup is open, because they tend to open early. But yes, definitely do that.
Yes. All right. And yes, she said international attendee. So glad I went on my little spiel. Mike Nelson said, let's demand they put up KFC again. I am fully on board with that plan, Mike. You know what? You know why I liked that so much? It's just because I love Comic-Con, and I love in parts I love knowing that I can expect a lot of what's going to be there. But what really gets me excited about Comic-Con every year, especially because like I have to write about so much of it, is when something new shows up. And especially like when it's fun and it gets like the vibe of Comic-Con. And that's exactly what those stupid KFC things were last year. Was just like, it was totally left field, but it also made sense in the weirdest way. So I hope more companies think that far outside the box as far as marketing at Comic-Con. Like, we do not need another offsite to make t-shirts and watch some and download something on our phone, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, start thinking outside the box, people. I mean, Star Wars proved it can go big, but KFC proved you don't have to spend a ton of money. You just put 7 statues out and you're good to go.
And you get all the press in the world from our blog.
Yeah. So there's a new question, which is from Rob Sibold, which is, I like Jane's the Oompa Loompa. Looking good, mate. Thank you. I will fix that. I have this. It's this. Look at. Watch this. Look. No Oompa Loompa. Oompa Loompa's back. I'm gonna have to fix that. Don't worry about that later.
That's bad.
I'm glad someone is enjoying it, because it bothers the the photographer in me is really upset about it. Like,
You said
color correct. Where's the button for color correct?
You said something earlier about like golden or gold, and in my head I was just thinking exactly the color you are. Oh. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, Sir Lister of Smeg. Said, is there a free shuttle map with an exact route, not just stopping points, but which direction the bus will be moving? And Mike answered with, the bus drivers all take different routes. Some even get lost. Ours tried to go the wrong way on a one-way street. So sadly, your answer is no. I would say that they probably have a route that they're supposed to go on, maybe, but traffic may dictate other things. And sometimes they just may do whatever they feel like to get things to where they want to go. But yes, there actually isn't an actual route on which streets. There's just the stops that they go to.
Well, and it may also be that somebody is communicating with them and saying like, hey, we need somebody to come pick up at this location.
Yeah.
You know, who knows?
There's a ton of news this week. There's more contests, multiple chances to win Star Trek tickets. There was the first Comic-Con puzzle tweet last night that took until sometime today possibly to get solved. There's just all kinds of stuff. Mattel is done, but they did have a mystery Star Wars Hot Wheels that will be for sale at the show only, not a pre-sale. Cinequest has some exclusive Sideshow, Mobius models, Entertainment Earth, Monogram, Kodo Bukaya. There's been, I think we're closing in on 100 or around 100 announced panels on our announced panels list so far.
I think it's more like 75. But yeah, we'll get there.
That's closing in on 100.
We'll get there.
It's more than 50.
Usually by the time that the official schedule goes up, we know somewhere around like over 200 panels. Easy.
Right.
So it'll happen. And again, like I said earlier, the official schedule starts to come out 2 weeks from Thursday. So we're not too far off now.
Now, someone actually asked why my Twitter handle is a certain name and my real name is not the same. Should I actually bother answering that in the very, very abbreviated version?
I mean, it's up to you.
So I'll answer that. So my Twitter handle is Dan Regal, which if you've been listening or watching for a while, you know that. And the reason why is I did not want to go by my real name when I got online for the very first time, however many years ago that was. And I remembered back in high school, one of my friends entered one of those stupid fundraising things where you put in, like, you answer 10 questions and you get a list back of your classmates who you match up with. And he put it in the fake name of Dan Regal. And I remembered that when I got online, 5 years, 8 years later, however long it was. And I'm like, I'm going to use that as a name instead of my real name because, the internet's kind of sketchy. So that's what I did, and it stuck. And I've been using it for, I think, almost 20 years now.
That's cool.
I
actually don't think I've ever heard that story.
I've actually tried to use it as one word, so it doesn't seem like a name, even though it is. So I never actually write it as Dan Regal. I never write it that way. It's always one word. But everyone thinks my name is Dan until they actually hear me saying my name is James. And I actually, because of the last decade of being online more and all of that, I actually do answer to Dan now.
That's kind of cool. That's funny. Gustavo Medina asked, any trolley ticket info? We talked about this last week, but the trolley always does like a special Comic-Con pass. They have not put that up yet, but as soon as they do, you will find all that information on SDCCblog.com.
There you go.
And speaking of SDCCblog.com, that is where you should head to find all the rest of the news that we did not have time to talk about today. There's a whole heck of a lot of it.
Yes.
Yes.
So also, don't forget, Enchantment Under the SDCC is at Analog Bar this year. Tickets are sold out. For those going, we will have more announcements for the prize bag and other things that we'll be giving away. Last week we announced that there was Mondo, and this week, do we have any announcements we can make, or are we saving that for soon?
Everybody is going to get a UCC distributing Suicide Squad blind bag figure, among many, many, many other things in their
we just continually surprised by the generosity of our sponsors and what they've been giving to us to give to you.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw what I tweeted, I think Friday, of the like 20 boxes at poor Evic's house. But yeah, that's like 1/5 of what they've sent us. And that's just Mattel. Like, it's going to be a very good year this year.
Mattel is being awesome. They are giving us multiple things. And so if you're coming to the party, I pretty much assume that you're going to be happy with what you're getting, even if you don't win a prize. And we also have a lot of prizes to go with it as well.
We do. We have a whole heck of a lot of prizes. I'm pretty excited about that. But again, we will start announcing all of that in more completeness. This is not a very well-structured sentence. In early July. We are teaming up with Uber for up to $20 off your first ride. You can use the code SDCCUblog to get that.
Sign up for our newsletter. Link is in the show notes. As we said, lots of other news on our site, including the Under the Tents column, which is now basically daily, with all the little bits of news coming through for just a ton of stuff.
You can sign up for... No. We already did that. Carrie's not sleeping too much, guys. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to do your part now. We hope you'll join us every week as we bring you news, opinions, and special guests leading up to SDCC 2016. I completely forget if it's next week or the following week, but we will have Super 7 on very soon to talk about their exclusives, which they also are another one who haven't started to unveil their stuff, but that should be a good show. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I am everywhere on the internet at Dan Riegel, as previously mentioned. And also you can check out geekshotphoto.com for the links to the social media for the photos that my wife and I post all over the place, Instagram, Flickr, all that kind of stuff. Carrie, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find more of my work on the internet at SDCCblog.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon. And this is my dog. We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog, or search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We are also on Stitcher Radio. The link is in the show notes.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for listening. Everybody, go Schwarzenegger. Brain dead.